You. Yes, you. Have you had a relative pass away? Maybe an uncle, grandfather, or even a parent with a first name or middle name beginning with M or J? You probably do, but not because I'm a psychic. I'm just demonstrating a common tactic con artists use to claim they have psychic powers. Unfortunately, there are a high concentration of charlatans in the so-called psychic community who use vague, subtle manipulation to prey on the vulnerable. But these techniques are far from foolproof. Stay tuned as I expose some of the most embarrassing and in turn deeply satisfying instances of so-called psychics being exposed as fake. Surprise! For $160 per session, California medium Deborah Dominique will connect you straight up with the dead, using little more than a few pendants and crystals. Like many psychics, she's been known to offer help in finding missing people, something she claims to be very successful at. In 2011, however, she found herself caught in a television news sting operation on CBS Sacramento. In the report, Dominique is presented with an image of a young boy and is told he disappeared. Using a pendulum and psychic intuition, she begins to piece together what happened to the boy.
They're saying he's not alive anymore. He's wearing white and he's in heaven.
While Dominique explains the boy had been kidnapped and killed trying to escape his abductors, the very same boy from the picture sits 2 tables away, very much alive. When confronted by the boy in white, who's actually in black and certainly isn't in heaven as Dominique claimed, her reaction is priceless.
I've got news for you. It might come as a shock, but he's very much alive.
Oh, that's great.
And he's actually standing right behind you right now.
Oh my goodness. That's great.
Watching her grapple with her internal logic is pretty insightful as to how a psychic justifies their errors, too.
How could you say he's deceased?
That's what I was feeling.
You said he may have been in Europe. You said he was taken. Weren't those just a bunch of lies?
No. At the time they weren't.
But he's right here and you said he was dead.
Well, it seemed that way.
It seemed that way, did it, Deborah? Based on all that unquestionable evidence your pendulum provided you? Burn after reading. James Van Praagh is a famous medium who combines expert showmanship with the standard tricks of the psychic trade to create an authentic seeming experience. I demonstrated one of these tricks, known as cold reading, at the start of this video. By asking rapid-fire questions of an extremely general, vague nature, it's easy to stumble across a piece of information that relates to an audience member's life. And because many grieving people are desperate for connection with a lost loved one, they're more likely to suspend their disbelief. They allow themselves to create tenuous links between facts in their lives and the vague statements of the psychic, making them ideal victims. The better a psychic becomes at reading subtle cues and responses in people, the more confident and hence convincing they become. With a willing audience, Van Praagh is exceptional at this. With a slightly less suggestible audience member, however, the facade starts to crumble, as Van Praagh experienced publicly on The View in 2006.
Okay, do you have a brother also, by the way? Does he have a brother, your father have a brother? He's also passed over?
No, he has 2 brothers that are living.
Okay, and they're both alive?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's one that he didn't speak with. Then there's a connection with one of them. He was not close with one of the brothers.
No, they were all 3 of them.
Well, he's telling me one was not as close. And there's also an initial F for someone. I don't know who that is.
Another guest was even more disastrous, despite Van Praagh's incredibly vague guesses.
I say a long name, but it's shortened, okay? I know what this means. And who's saying it?
Michael and Mike, maybe?
Was his name Michael then Mike?
Michael.
Could be it. But I mean, have you been looking at, just recently, you were looking at redoing some of the family photo?
No.
No?
Clearly embarrassed, the hosts quickly move on to a more willing guest. But Van Praagh was also found to use another technique known as hot reading after an investigation by Dr. Michael Shermer. Hot reading involves secretly researching individuals beforehand, allowing the psychic to appear in possession of otherworldly knowledge about a supposed stranger. Numerous producers on shows that have featured Van Praagh confirmed to Shermer that he regularly uses information gathered in seemingly off-the-cuff questions before shows air to inform his so-called readings. Others suggest Van Praagh's mustache is the secret to his powers. Well, I do anyway. Errors of judgment. Joe Power is an English psychic with a multitude of mistakes and questionable methods under his belt. In a 2010 documentary by illusionist Darren Brown, Power carries out what is supposedly a cold reading on a stranger, who's later discovered to be his sister's next-door neighbor. As if that wasn't enough, he also performs a disastrous cold reading on an actual stranger. After a promising start, things quickly go downhill.
Okay, she keeps talking about a separation here, divorce. Okay, and I don't know whether this is connected to do with you, or there was some type of split up going back quite a while.
No.
Some type of connection with Paul. I don't know if there's been some spot of bother or something happened around Paul, but I know is that she was specifically talking of a Paul.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
After several misses, note how Power subtly kicks up the vague factor.
Is the Jimmy or James connected?
No.
She's saying yes on grandfather's side.
No.
Did you catch that? Not only did he reference the incredibly common name Jimmy, he asked about someone on the grandfather's side. With a question like that, the circle of connection expands enormously, beyond immediate family, massively increasing Power's chances of success. Even so, he still gets it wrong. When he does seem to hit on something, he clings to it desperately.
I'm pretty sure is that it was connected to a mum. Would she have been one of 5?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, maybe have a think about it. It may come back a little bit later on. Okay. I feel it's connected to the 5 which was connected to your mum when she said it was one of 5. I'm quite happy. Your mum's come through, she talked about the 5 kids. Okay, that is good enough for me.
5 kids?
5, she was one of 5.
Oh, she was one of 5.
One of 5, yeah.
But unluckily for Joe, that 5 he clung to for dear life was actually an error on the part of the interviewee. She later confirmed her mother was actually one of 6 siblings. Whoops. Not only that, but when confronted about the inaccuracy of his reading, Joe claims Darren Brown corrupted the house with his presence.
You shouldn't have gone into the house, it was corruption.
Nothing to do with it, Joe. Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference.
Corruption.
Sure, Joe. Darren was the problem. Chocolate ghosts. In 2007, British TV show Bullshit Detective pulled the magic carpet out from under 3 psychics. Before bringing the psychics on the show, which was filmed in a theater that had once been a chocolate factory, producers created a false history for the location. They uploaded information about the factory's fictitious first owner and his violent death, all of it entirely made up, on a public website. If the psychics referenced the information on it, it would be proof of prior research informing their reactions, like hot reading. According to the website, George Bull, the ruthless, ill-tempered factory owner, lost his legs when they were run over by a horse-drawn cart, killing him in the process. As the show progresses, 2 psychics fall into the trap, regurgitating information from the fictitious history found online.
I feel like he was quite angry about something as well.
I've got George and I've got Bull. Though he may have got kicked by a horse, he went down. It was the horse that put him down in some way.
One even goes into a trance, channeling the ghost of a man who never existed. Another psychic claims to learn the owner's name from a spirit, while clearly reading it from under a portrait of the fictional owner.
George. George. Do you know the initials of his second name? Would it be?
Yeah.
Was it Bull?
It was.
That's what I got.
When the prank is finally revealed, the psychics react with a mixture of veiled anger, denial, and embarrassment at being found out.
That all came from a story that I made up.
Oh, did it?
With the help of a parapsychologist.
Yeah, no, I'm psychic. I knew that.
It's all made up.
That's made up, you sure?
Yeah.
You positive?
Yeah, I got someone to write that.
Check it. So where did I get Bull from then?
Well, I think probably
That's what
from the
I
name
want,
plaque on it. But
I didn't see the name plaque, I can't see it. Because I need glasses.
You've also got to remember that when mediums link telepathically with the mind of spirit, we also link with your mind. So if you've got this information running through your mind, I could pick it up from you as well.
One of the other psychics even owned up to doing research beforehand, proving the theory that this type of thing really does occur. So if you ever want to catch a charlatan, use chocolate. The living dead. Sadly, many psychics descend like vultures upon families whose relatives go missing, especially cases in the public eye. For them, it's a perfect opportunity to exchange petty predictions for publicity and a paycheck. But in 2011, Inside Edition decided to put one of these grief vampires to the test. With one of their producers posing as a man looking for his missing sister, they recruited Oregon psychic Lori McQuarrie for the task. When McQuarrie was shown a photograph of the girl, she told the producer that she could help him find his sister for $400. What McQuarrie didn't know was that the picture was of Inside Edition host Lisa Guerrero as a child. Unaware, McQuarrie told the producer that his sister had been killed after being hit in the head with a rock.
I don't believe she's alive. I'm sorry, I believe that it was a violent passing. I think she was hit in the head with a rock.
McQuarrie even pointed out on a map where the body could be found to be brought back to the family. When Guerrero interviewed McQuarrie herself, the psychic insisted that she was always correct when she predicted whether someone was alive or dead.
One of the first things I do in a case, Lisa, is I always make sure people know that if I feel the person is living or not.
So you'll always know,
Yes.
when you talk to a family member, when you start a case, you'll know if this person is dead or
Yes.
alive.
Of course, that made Guerrero's big reveal all the sweeter.
I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Does this girl look familiar to you?
Yes, she does. I worked this case.
This little girl is me. And you told somebody that she's dead.
Wait a minute. You didn't disappear?
I'm right here.
When confronted with the idea that she was exploiting vulnerable people for money, McQuarrie got up and left. Considering she's a psychic, she certainly didn't see that coming. Scam Sandwich. Maria Duval is the silver-haired face of Destiny Research Center. This is the name of an abhorrent company that contacted sick and financially desperate people with promises of psychic aid to ease their hardship. In exchange for blessings, amulets, and crystals, the victims of Duval and Destiny Research Center would be asked to fork over $40 per each letter sent to them, and more for special blessings. Each victim would be asked to send in personal items, like locks of hair and outlines of their hands, to make the supposed magic feel personal. In reality, all submitted materials were simply thrown away upon arrival. The letters people would receive back from Duval were designed with coffee stains and computer-generated handwriting to appear individually tailored. In truth, Destiny Research Center and parent company InfoJust Direct Marketing were generating thousands of identical letters a week. The scam spanned dozens of countries, and in North America alone was able to rake in $200 million before several international investigations brought it to a halt in 2014. Sadly, 1.4 million people in the U.S. had already fallen victim to the insidious scheme by that point. Officials have attempted to investigate Duval, the psychic supposedly at the helm, but she's unable to provide testimony as she now suffers from dementia. Maria's family claims, however, that Maria never took any money and that her image was co-opted by con men. Given the history of psychic swindlers, though, I seriously doubt Duval made no gains from the scheme. Worse yet, it wasn't even an original hoax. Televangelists have been using the technique of asking to send personal items in cash in exchange for blessings for years, only using the word faith instead of psychic.
It's burning on the inside of you, and you need to make a vow of faith of $1,000.
Worst of all, thanks to their status as churches, televangelist scam dollars are tax exempt. If you know anyone who's fallen victim to a scam like this, do them a favor. Show them this video. False prophet. Sylvia Brown, one of the most prolific psychics of the last few decades, made some pretty notorious and public errors in her time. But unlike most grief vampires, Sylvia didn't need to pursue the grief-stricken. They came to her. Between 1991 and 2008, she appeared as a frequent feature on The Montel Williams Show. She regularly delved into prophetic predictions on the show, which, when they weren't so vague as to be essentially meaningless, were often hilariously wrong. One of her all-time greats was in 2007 when she predicted that the struggling housing markets were about to get much stronger.
So is the housing market going to now get stronger?
Yeah, it will.
The next year, the biggest financial crisis since the 1930s hit, and house prices slumped astronomically. Unfortunately, Brown also made specific, brutal predictions when talking to the parents of missing children. In 2005, the mother of a missing child named Amanda Berry went on to the Montel Williams Show to talk to Sylvia. Sylvia told her, with no minced words, that her daughter was dead.
Don't think I'll ever see her again.
Yeah, in heaven on the other side.
Amanda's mother left the show convinced her daughter was dead and died of pancreatitis the next year. But in 2013, Amanda Berry was found alive. Sylvia received a well-deserved backlash, considering her predictions meant a woman went to the grave wrongly believing her daughter had died. But all the psychic had to say was that she was glad to be mistaken in this case, and that she was usually right. But this didn't just happen once. In 2003, Sylvia told a couple that their missing son had been kidnapped and killed. He was found alive in 2007. Not only that, but she made this prediction about the kidnapper.
The guy was dark-skinned, although he wasn't black, he was more Hispanic looking. Had real long, dark hair, and strange enough Hispanic, but he had dreadlocks.
In reality, the kidnapper turned out to be a Caucasian man with short hair. And if for some reason you need further proof that Brown was nothing but a fraud, overly confident in her abilities she didn't have, I'll let this clip speak for itself.
I lost my boyfriend tragically a few years ago. They never found him.
The reason why you didn't find him is because he's in water.
Well, it was September 11th.
She may not have taken money directly from the hands of grieving families like some mediums do, but Sylvia Brown mercilessly robbed people of hope on national television, likely traumatizing them for life. Sylvia died in 2013 at the age of 77. She'd predicted she'd die at 88. It was sort of poetic that after all the pain she'd caused, she'd be the one on the receiving end of her final incorrect prediction. Ever had a psychic try to take advantage of you or a family member? Did you learn any new ways to sniff out a charlatan from this video? Share your story in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.